All right, let's talk about the bandwagon effect. For those of you who are part of something like a treasure hunt or alternate reality game or some other kind of group game, or even if you're in the workplace or in a learning environment, this is real. We all experience it, and certainly it's something that we all have to learn how to navigate. So what I'd like to do is describe the bandwagon effect a little bit in this video and then give you 5 items that I've just jotted down here sitting in front of me that are strategies that you can cultivate to help yourself resist the bandwagon effect, to not be pulled into this cognitive bias as much as you are now. As I've said in other videos, cognitive biases and logical fallacies are a part of our lives, and our brains, we seem to get pulled into them regularly. So what I'm suggesting here is not to how you can become a person who never falls into a cognitive bias or a logical fallacy. What I'm suggesting is you can become more aware of the fact that they do exist and they exist in your mind, and then you can start to practice some things that help you overcome them and begin to see things more clearly and have a better chance of success, whether you're on a treasure hunt or in a learning environment or a workplace or just somewhere else in your life. So here we go. Bandwagon effect. It happens when people adopt beliefs or theories or behaviors or perspectives that the group that you're a part of seems to really argue for. So you'll notice, for example, if you're part of something like the John Collins Black, there's Treasure Inside treasure hunt group. You will notice that on certain platforms that there's a bit of a perspective that begins to develop. There are always divergent perspectives, but you'll see that people seem to kind of rule out things together or come to some kind of consensus together. And while it can be really beneficial to hear from other people and other perspectives, you want to notice and see if all of a sudden the group over time has started to really go down a singular path together. There's a sign that you might be falling into a bandwagon effect or a groupthink effect that might keep you from finding the real clue or the real answer solution to your problem in your workplace. So here are the 5 ways. There are many more than 5, but here are 5 ways that I found helpful, and that when I've done reading about how to try to overcome these cognitive biases over the years, these seem to come up. So one of them is just plain critical thinking, by sort of activate your critical thinking with a specific question. And the question is this: would I believe this if I hadn't seen others saying it? Now, you can't actually answer this question completely honestly all the time after you've been part of a group. You may think that you're answering it honestly. So part of the strategy is to really be brutally honest with yourself. Would I really believe this if I hadn't seen other people saying it? If I hadn't just seen everybody going this route? And by the way, I will say this, that in life, following suit with other people is sometimes not good, and sometimes it is good. Imagine you're driving down the highway, and the weather looks pretty good. The roads don't look slippery or anything like that. And everyone, when you were going 70 miles an hour, everyone was, but there's quite a bit of traffic. And then all of a sudden, you see a number of cars around you start to slow down. Do you just keep going fast, or do you slow down just to see if maybe there's something they see that you don't see? Like in driving in traffic, that might actually be a safe strategy. Who knows? Maybe there's an accident ahead that you can't see yet. There could be some other things. So in some situations, the bandwagon kind of effect, or adjusting your beliefs and behaviors according to those around you, can actually lead to a safe and better outcome. But similarly, sometimes you have people that just start slowing down. And I've been in situations where everyone was slowing down for no real reason. And it was like the traffic just slowed down because a handful of people did it and everyone just kind of followed suit. So when it comes to doing something like a treasure hunt, or solving a problem in the workplace, or coming up with creative ideas or solutions, this is where we want to be really careful that we're not just falling into a bandwagon effect. Second one then is independent information you want to try to find sources of independent information. Seek out clues or interpretations from sources that are outside of the dominant group. So if you are part of groups, for example, that are trying to solve a problem with a treasure hunt or something, do more than one group, and groups that don't just interact with one another. You want to be a part of multiple groups so you can not necessarily just get sucked into one group's way of thinking about the issue. Third one is just groupthink disruption. So you want to intentionally invite different viewpoints or challenge the most popular theory in your team. So you can play that role. You can play the devil's advocate and start challenging the group. It's interesting to see what happens. Sometimes there's an interesting social phenomenon. So just be ready for a bit of pushback from the community and try to learn to do it in a way that's respectful and just asks provocative questions like, have any of you ever wondered if maybe we're going down the wrong track? Or what if we're all wrong here? Or, you can do it in a number of ways. Or again, you can try to invite some new people to the situation and have them contribute. What's so fascinating, though, is that, and this is another bias I'll probably do in a separate video, is expertise and experience and time is certainly to be respected and valuable. And yet what's so intriguing is you'll develop these communities, like for a treasure hunt, like John Collins Black, there's treasure inside. No one has found the treasure. There is no one there who has demonstrated themselves to actually know what's going on for sure. And yet some become these influencers and they lead the kind of group think. And if you challenge them, they will push back and say, well, you're a newbie. You haven't been doing this for very long, so you probably don't know what you're talking about. But sometimes, and I find this actually in the workplace too, you find people that have been working in the same job for 20 years and they boast about their years of experience and how valuable it is. And yes, that can be valuable, but also you could have years of falling into a certain rut or way of thinking that may or may not be helpful for what you're going to try to accomplish next. So just acknowledge that aspect of experienced people can have wisdom and insight to offer, but they can also be stuck in some certain ruts and ways of thinking, or maybe they're tainted by their failed attempts in the past, so they become kind of skeptic and they become overly critical of other alternate ideas. So groupthink disruption. The fourth one is if you pre-commit to some standards for evidence, that can be really helpful to you. So when you might say, I want to have at least 5 distinct clues that are separate from, regardless of what everyone else says, I'm not going to consider it a worthwhile effort unless I have this, and this in place. And you have to come up with those for yourself, but give yourself a standard that's pretty high so that it's not easily just kind of drawn into a groupthink. And then if the group's perspective doesn't meet that standard, no matter how strong the pressure, you want to hold off on adhering to it. And then also is just there's a fifth one that's really just an awareness that is a kind of, maybe call it a cognitive dissonance awareness. So when you're in a group and you challenge the group and you are the sole voice that's looking at something differently than everyone else, you want to get used to sitting in that space. It's uncomfortable. And as a result, many times we're just drawn to conform, either get out of the group or we just kind of conform to the group. But sometimes there's some real value in being that devil's advocate, in being able to take perspectives that aren't necessarily popular or adopted by the group and getting comfortable holding that position. So if you do that over time, then you're going to insulate yourself from just being sort of blindly pulled in to the view of the group over time. Now, all of these, as are strategies for overcoming any logical fallacy or cognitive bias, these are not things that you just say, okay, I'm going to start doing them tomorrow, and you master them. These are practices that you get better at over time. So you do actually have to practice them, just like if you were sitting down to a piano and tried to play a beautiful piece of music the first time, you wouldn't stand up because it's not beautiful after 10 minutes of playing the instrument. You would and say that, pianos don't work because I can't play this Mozart piece the first time I sat down in front of a piano, you would acknowledge that, oh, I've got a ways to go. And that's true with these different techniques that I described here today. The critical thinking, that kind of seeking independent information, the groupthink disruption by intentionally inviting some different viewpoints or challenging the most popular theories, the commitments to standards for evidence before you even step into the group, and then also getting comfortable being in that place of cognitive dissonance and disagreement with the group. These are great practices, and they can be really helpful for us when we are making use of groups, but we want to avoid sort of the dark side or the downside of it. Hope you find this helpful. Love to hear some of your comments. Thanks.